Hi everyone, welcome back to A Sky Full of Stars, episode 14, where it looks like we still have a detached Akito from the rest of the class. So far, Akito's still trying to work on trying to reconnect with Saya after he made her cry by saying that her eyes look like the Ibero stars. And also, we have a Hikari that's still trying to get Akito to use his telescope and share it with her. But he just mentioned in episode 12 that it's broken because the images are upside down and it's out of focus. And maybe it's because Takeichi damaged it when he took it away from him as punishment for making Sai cry. So right now he's back in his home, he's doing homework, his grandpa just goes into the room and ignores him. And let's see who's knocking on the door. Well, I'm pretty sure you know who it has to be. So suddenly someone was banging on my front door as it were a drum. What the? Okay, so more knocking. Hey, Sarami-kun! Let's come out and play! That voice. Well, we know who it is. Hikari? I wipe my tears away in a panic. Okay, so I think he opens the door right before Hikari finishes her sentence. Okay? You know, you can ring the bell, you know. Well, I didn't know that they'd have a doorbell. Well, I knew Granddad's house is old, but it did still have a doorbell. And I wonder if it works. Because I know my grandmother's house had a doorbell, but then when she got telephone lines installed, the telephone company accidentally severed the connections with the doorbell, so it never worked afterwards. Well, then again, her house was eventually demolished. It was closed for renovations because they took it down and they built a more modern, high-story or high-rise complex for her. Oh, Sarami-kun. Did you need something? Well, honestly, I felt like I could use the company, so I was glad someone had come to visit. I didn't want her to know that though, so I put a gruff front so she wouldn't see through me. Okay, so Hikari still wants Akito to share the telescope with her. Wow, so I wonder how far Hikari's willing to go to get Akito to share the telescope with her. She's following him everywhere. But then Akito brought it to class and that drew attention. I do find it strange that he's bringing it to class even though it's not working. So what was she talking about? I know you totally lied about it, being broken when it really isn't. But I wasn't lying, even you saw it. So Hikari doesn't believe it's broken. She believes it's fixable. It is broken. So my voice trailed off as I didn't want to admit the fact myself. As it did, Hikari gave me a puzzled look. So she thinks that Akito is joking with her, or basically come up with some kind of lie to basically get her to stop following her or him about the telescope. No, it is true. I'm serious. I'm totally being serious. So Hikari searched my eyes for any hint that I may be lying. But she still wants to see it. Okay, so Akito can't really go any further to hide it, so he might as well just show her. And then proceeded to painstakingly look it over. So, does Hikari find the problem about why it's not working correctly? Well, after fiddling around with it for a while, Hikari grinned from ear to ear. It works. But it's blurry and upside down. So I think the teacher did mention about how telescope images are upside down. And Hikari's like, well, that's how your telescope is working. Huh? Are you kidding me? Why would it show up images upside down? And the reason it's blurry is because... So I think she found the problem. So I wondered if it was installed correctly, or maybe Akito put it together wrong, and that's why the images don't look correct. Hey, but she does have something that could help with Akito's telescope. A tripod. Oh, so it's actually from the teacher, so Saotome. Miharu. So Hikari told me triumphantly as she continued to set up the tripod. And yet... Okay, so she has this tripod, but she doesn't know how to set it up. And now she's kind of wondering, so how do you put this together to make it work? Like, where do you mount this? Where does this leg go? And it's dark, so it's hard to see outside. Let me see. So Akito wants to have at it as well. So I gave her my telescope again as I tried to set up the tripod instead. So the telescope had come with a tripod when we bought it, so I sort of knew what I was doing. So what are we going to do with this? Okay, so she's mounting the telescope onto the tripod that she borrowed from the teacher. And being dark outside makes it really, really hard for them to set it up. So can you bring me the flashlight by the doorway? Yeah, okay. So with Hikari holding the light, and after a lot of fiddling around, we finally managed to mount the telescope up onto the tripod. Okay, we did it. Okay, so now the telescope is on a tripod. So mounted properly on the tripod with the single lens pointing towards the night sky, it certainly seemed quite impressive. So I wonder if this tripod is actually the same brand as the telescope itself, or maybe the tripod is. Or I think it's maybe like under this mounting fixture. But anyways, like Akito's asking now, so now what do we do with it? So now it's on a tripod, it's all set up, good to go. So what's next? I asked her as an awkward thought crossed my mind. It was embarrassing that even though the telescope belonged to me, I didn't know how to use it without someone else's help. Well, that's why they have instruction manuals. But then, I don't think Akito could understand what the instruction manual was talking about, so he just used it as is. And I think the telescope didn't go the way that he thought it would, and that's why he called it broken. So I wonder if Hikari's basing her experience on how she sees other people using their telescope. So Hikari picked up the whole telescope assembly and moved it to a more spacious part of the yard. Then, using a lever situated between the telescope and the tripod, she aimed the lens somewhere up into the night sky. And what do we see now? So she dialed the nearby knob while peering into the telescope. So it's kind of interesting that Hikari knows how to work with a telescope even though she doesn't have one herself. But thankfully she was able to get something that Akito thinks is broken to work. So Hikari was muttering to herself empathetically. So, are you able to see anything? Or is it ultimately broken like I thought? Okay, so I think she is able to get it to work. So I wonder what she found with the telescope. So, found what? What did you find? So seriously, what is it? What do you see? Oh, this, Hey, no, it's my telescope, you know. Without thinking, I totally went and said it. I think it's like, don't mess with my telescope, you might break it, or you're making it worse. So with a deliberately exaggerated motion, Hikari looked up from the scope, spinning that dial as she did so. She's making some adjustments. Okay, here you go. Despite really wanting to jump in and take a peek, my pride got in the way, so I slowly... What's this? Sauntered over. Well, I still want to look at it more, so hurry up and here's your chance. Hey, don't rush me. You know, this is my telescope. So, stifling my eagerness, I peered into the scope. This? So what's special about this? This looks like the moon. Just like before, the image I saw through the telescope was blurry. Was it because my eyes were bad? No. This couldn't be it. My vision was 2015 at my last eye exam. So it's like my eyes are much better than average, or better than acceptable. So if that was the case, maybe I am doing something wrong. Like maybe there is a trick to looking through it.
見える？
So do you see it? Yeah. So what's this?
嘘ばっか。ぼやっとしか見えてないくせに。
So what did Hikari see that was exciting, and it got Akito interested to the point where he actually wanted to take a peek as well? Because obviously this is not something that would be considered exciting. It's just something that's out of focus and blurry, and it looks like the moon. Well, how did she know? Well, I think when she left the telescope to Akito, it was obviously out of focus, and she knows that Akito won't do anything to adjust the telescope to make the image better. So you did something, did you? Okay, so I think Hikari's looking like she did do something to the telescope. She adjusted it, and then when she gave the telescope back to Akito, she returned it to its original focus, and that's when Akito's like, "Wait a minute, this is not interesting. This is a pretty bad image. It kind of shows that this telescope is still out of focus and not working properly. So I would still say that this telescope is broken." So she giggled with a guilty expression.
ここを回すの。
Oh, this knob. Which one? This one.
だよ。
Well, I think Hikari needs to show Akito how it works, not tell him, oh, use this knob to adjust the telescope so that you can see a pretty focused, clear image. Okay, so she does. She actually grabs Akito's hands and guides him on how to use his telescope.
ここをね、ゆっくり回すの。
So this dial. Right.
どうしたの？
So I wondered if I was like I know that part, but it still won't work. The telescope is still out of order. Nothing. Well, I think it kind of feels embarrassed that even though he has this nice piece of equipment, he doesn't know how to use it, and someone else has to teach him how to use it. And it kind of feels embarrassing for that. Okay, so it would be embarrassing if she found out my heart skipped a beat when our hands touched, so I played it off. So anyways, so like this?
そうそう。
Yeah. So just as she said, as I turned the dial, the fuzzy image within the telescope began to slowly change. It's nice seeing some image.
だんだんピントが合ってくるから。
Okay?
どう？
So how is it? Yeah.
ああ、じゃあわかんないよ。どうなの？見えた？
So I need more than just, yeah, it's okay. I want to know what's going on, what's happening, and like elaborate more on what yeah means. I can see it. So I answer her quietly, my voice shaking as my breath hitched. Hey, so is this... Okay, so, this is what the image looks like now that he's adjusted the lens, so now it's focused. So is this the moon? I can see a clear image of the distinct hills and valleys created by the craters.
そうだよ。だって望遠鏡はお月様に向いてるもん。
Yeah, so this is where the telescope is aiming at. It's aiming at the moon. Well, still, it didn't look like at all like the moon that I knew. Well, what I saw wasn't at all like the glowing yellow disk I usually look up to in the night sky. Looking at the bumps and valleys of the waning moon, they were so stark against the surface. I felt as if I were looking at the exact same soil I was currently standing on. On the other side of the vast separation of space, there was soil. Well, I never knew that the moon was somewhat uneven. And I always thought of it like a really big version of the light bulb. So Akito's starting to see some of the things that he wasn't able to see without his telescope. The fact that the moon is more than just a light bulb. It's actually some kind of rotating object. It has craters. It has a surface. And the craters are easily visible from just his telescope. It's not as if I hadn't known there was soil on the moon. It was hard to compare the image of the moon that we see on the TV or in books to the sphere we see glowing in the night sky. There are rocks from the moon, mountains, basins, and surfaces that reflect light and make shadows. The delineation between the darkened surface and the surface illuminated by the sun was exceptionally vivid.
早乙女先生が言ってた。月を見るなら今夜あたりが見頃だろうって。
Oh, remember what you just said? Tonight's a really good day to look at the moon because it's almost full, it's bright, it's big.
満月よりもちょっと欠けてる方が影ができていいんだって。
Okay, so it looks like he readjusted the lens and now it's out of focus.
どうしたの？
And I was like, wait a minute, what happened to that focus? It's gone now. It looks blurry again. So Hikari asked me, a little impatience showing in her voice. And that was when I noticed it. So it's gone blurry again. But this time it wasn't because the telescope was broken. Or that I couldn't get to focus. Okay, so it's his tears.
で泣いてるの？
I just think that Akito's so happy that he's able to get this present from Dad to work for the first time. And Hikari notices it. So tears poured down my face, all thoughts of being embarrassed about crying long forgotten. So, Akito says, I was supposed to see this with Dad. So Hikari is surprised at Akito's reaction. You know, Dad and I were gonna do an observation project together. We were gonna use this telescope, and then sobbing, I started talking about things I never told anyone before. So the fact that Akito is talking about his personal history with Hikari. Well, I actually wanted something else, but Dad really wanted me to see the stars, and so I put up with it, but... So remember, he wanted a game instead of this telescope? But in the end, we didn't get to see them because both Dad and Mom died before we could go. Ooh. Well, this kind of explains everything. Like my tears, I couldn't stop my rambling. Feelings that I had hidden deep in my heart were welling up and pouring out along with my tears. So we're actually going even further back in the past. So he kind of remembers or tries to remember what happened. So he lost his parents in an accident. And I was taken in and let go by so many relatives over and over again until I was finally brought to my retired granddad's house. So the fact that only he was able to take care of Akito, whereas everyone else was too busy with their own life. Everyone ignored how I felt about it all. Throughout these tumultuous times, I lost a great deal of things. And one by one, they were lost. Important things. Not so important things. The baseball glove that Dad had bought me. The scarf that Mom had knitted for me. Clothes and shoes that I had outgrown. The water canteen and backpack I had used when we hiked up the mountain. My favorite baseball cap. Bicycle. And my family photo album. With every item lost, I also lost a memory. And with each memory lost, my heart broke that much more. Whether it was fun, or sad, or happy, or anger, it's like I was just waiting for the future, whether it's tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, or just any time that I could look forward to. And one by one, I lost every fragment that made up who I was. Everything's just gone. It's like having a pocket with a hole in it. As you continue waiting, you end up dropping more and more things out of it. Oh, okay, as you continue walking. But there's just one thing that I've got left. So it's the telescope. Though I may not have lost the tripod, though I may have lost the tripod that we bought with it, I still had this telescope with me. It was proof I needed. It was the single piece of evidence that tied the present me who has lost almost everything with the me that had lived happily with both of my parents. So this telescope really means a lot to Akito. It's actually a memento, and it kind of symbolizes of his past. And sometimes I feel like everything that happened at that time was all just an illusion of a dream, or a dream. But when I get like that, this telescope reminds me that it was all real and it all happened. That the good times I spent with my mom and dad really did happen. And that's why I can't lose this. I brought to school with me every day because of that reason. I felt uneasy if it wasn't with me, even though I didn't even know how to use it. So Hikari is quite surprised at all the memories that Akito was able to tell her after she was able to get the telescope to work and teach him how to use it. She said it so apologetically. I'm sure he regrets pestering me so badly to see it. But at least she was able to make it work, and now it's a telescope and not just an item of memory. I shook my head to reassure her it was okay. Honestly, it was really painful. Even though I say that it's proof of my memories, I really hadn't made any with it at all. The only reason I treasured this telescope was because it just happened to be the only thing that I managed to keep. That was it. So the fact that the telescope is his memento about the times when his parents were still alive and he was living with them. And even though he's outgrown everything else, like clothes, baseball glove, cap, bicycle, or they've wear out over time to the point where it's no longer usable. The only thing that he still has with him from those times was the telescope. But I had no choice but to hold on to it. I had to convince myself that it was something important. Is there even anything in there? Isn't this just some plain old empty tube? Well, I think it was back then, when he felt like it was broken, he didn't know how to use it. But now it's a valuable tool. It was so painful to have that doubt lingering in the corner of my mind. I gripped my shirt above my heart, scrunching the fabric in my grasp as I recalled the pain. But I guess that wasn't the case. So it's no longer an empty tube. And the moment I realized that fact, I was overwhelmed with tears.
空っぽなんかじゃないよ。それどころかすごいものだったよ。
So now it's a valuable tool. It's something exciting that they could use.
覗くだけで月にまで手が届きそうなくらい。
And the fact that you can actually see the moon up close. It's the actual image, not some photograph. It's 3D. So, as she excitedly told me that, Hikari spread her arms wide towards the night sky. I couldn't help but chuckle at seeing her enthusiasm. Drying my tears, I looked into the telescope again. So it really did seem like I could reach out and touch the moon. Well, I'm sure this is what Dad wanted to show me. A vast and beautiful world full of drama and mystique stretched out before me. It was there, at the opposite end of the last remaining piece of my hope, my telescope. And now, knowing the true meaning, I was able to make the connection. The connection between the me who had only known happiness and the current me. Thanks, Hikari.
私がやりたいからやっただけ。だから君に感謝されることじゃない。
Well, Hikari wanted to use the telescope as well, so she was kind of helping herself in a sense. After saying that with a dismissive look on her face, Hikari laughed jokingly.
なんてね。
Okay. I couldn't help but laugh. That was the exact same thing I had said to her the first day I transferred in. Well, sorry for being a jerk before. Well, I never made any friends because I was always transferring schools.
それも昨日までの話だね。
Well, yeah, it's old news. That was then, this is now. So what do you mean?
だってもういるじゃん、友達。
You got a new friend. And obviously it's her. While I couldn't help but laugh again, the sight of her self-confident expression was too amusing. It had really been a long time since I had laughed like this. It was such an interesting thing. I had cried and openly talked about such personal things, but now I was here, laughing genuinely with her. I didn't think it was possible to expose my feelings about like this anymore. I thought I had built a strong shell to protect myself from the loneliness. I had spent years hardening this protective shell, and yet it was so quickly breached and broken. Stargazing brings out the kinder side in people. If only everyone could feel that small bit of light from the deep, deep space, I'm sure the world would be a more peaceful place. Yeah, that's true. I want you to remember that faint light, growing up to be a kind of person who sees that light that others can't. I spoke aloud the words that floated up from the depths of my memory. And that's what my father said to me when he brought me this telescope. That shining light might have been you, Hikari. So I think he's turned the tables on her. Hikari was taken aback and blushed profusely. So now she's blushing. Hikari hung her head after her expression of disbelief faded. There you go. Okay. Yeah, well, it was something my dad had told me, but I'm not sure whether it's true or not. Okay, well, at least Hikari believes the story. And the words that, Akito's father gave him. Well, I couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed and flattered. And Dad also told me, don't fear the darkness, because though the night is dark, the stars shine dazzling bright. Okay. But that one is a little bit more confusing, and I'm not too sure what he meant. Hikari nodded in agreement. Okay, so I'll go ahead and stop here. I noticed that my video has gone a little bit long. So, we learned from this episode that the telescope really means a lot to Akito. It's his childhood memento. It was the only thing that he has from the times when his parents were still alive. But the problem was that he didn't know how to use it, so he kind of felt it was broken, it was out of focus, and the images are upside down. But thankfully, we have let's say, an enthusiastic girl named Hikari who really wants to see the stars and is willing to fix Akito's telescope or help with it to make it work, not just for herself but also for Akito. And it turns out that the telescope, he didn't know how to use it. He didn't know how to adjust the focus. and that's why the images kind of looked bad. And she also brought him a tripod, which really helps. So with that in mind, I'll see you in the next episode.